Welcome back to True Crime Documentary YouTube channel. New York City, the city that never sleeps, is a place where stories unfold in every corner. Tales of triumph, tragedy, and everything in between. Yet even in this bustling concrete jungle, few stories could capture the public's imagination, like the tale of Evelyn Monroe and Reverend Nathaniel Cross. It was a story that would unravel in the blink of an eye, transforming two of the city's most beloved figures into symbols of obsession, betrayal, and murder. For years, Evelyn Monroe had been the epitome of New York's high society, a stunningly beautiful woman married to one of the city's most influential defense attorneys, Richard Monroe. She graced every gala, attended every high-end charity event, and was revered for her flawless elegance and poise. From the outside, her life seemed perfect, yet beneath the designer gowns and the sparkling diamonds, there was a woman consumed by loneliness and desperation. Her marriage was anything but ideal. While her husband Richard played the role of the successful, doting partner, he was also a man of many secrets. Affairs, late nights, and a cold distance were a constant reminder to Evelyn that the affection she craved was simply out of her reach. As her marriage grew more distant, Evelyn's yearning for validation found an outlet in an affair that would ultimately destroy her, an affair with the very man she believed could give her the love she was denied at home. Reverend Nathaniel Cross was the charismatic, enigmatic pastor of Divine Grace Ministries, a man of godly stature, beloved by his congregation, and celebrated in social circles. A powerful orator, Nathaniel had the kind of charm that could captivate a room and leave people entranced. But behind his polished exterior, there was a darker side to Nathaniel, one that would go unnoticed by the thousands who admired him from afar. The Reverend, much like the city around him, had his own secrets, hidden desires, unchecked ambitions, and a penchant for playing with fire. It was during a time when Evelyn was searching for something more, something beyond the life she had built with Richard, that she first found herself drawn to Nathaniel's sermons. His words spoke to her in a way that her husband never could. Nathaniel seemed to see through her polished exterior and understand her pain, her isolation. What began as a spiritual journey quickly turned into something far more dangerous, a passionate affair that spiraled beyond Evelyn's control. But what started as an illicit love affair would soon become a story of obsession, jealousy, and eventually, murder. It was on the evening of March 5th, 2012, that this tragic tale would reach its bloody climax. Evelyn Monroe, once the golden child of New York's elite, would walk into Reverend Nathaniel Cross's penthouse, and within hours she would leave a trail of blood, betrayal, and devastation behind her. The Reverend would be dead, and Evelyn would find herself at the center of one of the city's most shocking true crime stories, a story that would captivate the world and leave an indelible mark on the pages of history. This is the story of passion gone awry, of love turned lethal, and of how one woman's heartache led to a tragedy that no one could have foreseen. This is the tale of Evelyn Monroe, Nathaniel Cross, and a crime that would shatter lives forever. On the morning of March 6, 2012, New York City was buzzing with its usual energy. People hurried along the streets, taxis honked as they fought for space, and the skyline gleamed under the weak winter sun. In the heart of the city, nestled amidst the towering skyscrapers, was Nathaniel Cross's penthouse, a serene and opulent apartment that was far removed from the noise and chaos of the city below, the kind of place where one could escape from the world, if only for a moment. But on that fateful morning, the tranquility of Nathaniel's home was shattered. The Reverend was found dead, a victim of a violent attack that left his once pristine apartment soaked in blood. It was his housekeeper, Maria Gonzalez, who discovered the grisly scene, Maria, who had worked for Nathaniel for years, knew the penthouse well. She had cleaned it countless times, dusting the antique furniture and arranging the pristine silverware with care. But that morning, she stepped into a scene that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She had arrived at the penthouse as usual, keys in hand, expecting nothing more than her routine duties. But as she opened the door and stepped inside, she felt an odd stillness in the air. The usual warmth of Nathaniel's home was absent. The silence was oppressive, unnatural. Maria's heart began to race as she walked further into the apartment, her eyes scanning the familiar surroundings. The moment she reached Nathaniel's bedroom, she froze. There, on the floor, lay the Reverend's lifeless body. Blood pooled around him, staining the hardwood floors. His once regal appearance was marred by the brutality of his death. Maria gasped in horror, her hand trembling as she reached for her phone to call 911. Detective Alan Carter was the lead investigator on the case. A seasoned veteran of the NYPD, Carter had seen his share of crime in the city, but something about Nathaniel Cross's murder struck him as unusual. The Reverend was well known, beloved by his congregation, influential in the city's political and social circles. His death was not just another headline, it was a tragedy that would affect the entire community. And with a case like this, there was no room for error. Carter arrived at the penthouse with his team, immediately beginning to piece together the evidence. They examined the crime scene with meticulous care. There were no signs of forced entry, no indication that someone had broken in. This was not a random act of violence, it was personal. Someone close to Nathaniel had committed this crime, someone who knew him well. As they scoured the apartment, the detectives began to uncover clues that painted a chilling picture of the crime. A single, high-heeled shoe lay beneath Nathaniel's bed, abandoned in haste. A wine glass, half full, stood on the coffee table with a distinct lipstick mark on its rim. These small but telling details soon led them to a single suspect, Evelyn Monroe. The authorities quickly discovered that Evelyn had been involved with Nathaniel for months, their relationship no longer a secret. Church staff and fellow congregation members had spoken of the two's intimate interactions, their closeness that was far beyond spiritual devotion. It was clear that Evelyn's obsession with Nathaniel had grown in intensity, her devotion becoming all-consuming. As the investigation delved deeper into Evelyn's life, the detectives uncovered a disturbing pattern of behavior. She had lavished Nathaniel with extravagant gifts, each one more expensive than the last: designer watches, rare jewelry, and even private flights. Her texts to Nathaniel became increasingly desperate, pleading with him to stay in the affair, while simultaneously lashing out in anger at his reluctance. The relationship had spiraled out of control, with Nathaniel attempting to distance himself from Evelyn, something she couldn't or wouldn't accept. To the world, Evelyn Monroe was the picture of perfection. She was a woman who had it all: beauty, wealth, influence. Her presence at high-profile events was always noted, her smile radiant, her laugh infectious. But behind closed doors, Evelyn was far from the carefree socialite people believed her to be. Her marriage to Richard Monroe, though outwardly perfect, was a farce. Richard was an attorney with a reputation for bending the law, and while he was always charming at public functions, he was emotionally distant at home. The two had drifted apart long before Evelyn began her affair with Nathaniel. Richard's infidelities were an open secret, and Evelyn found herself alone in the grand Upper East Side townhouse that had once been a symbol of their success. It was in the hollow space of this loneliness that Evelyn first found solace in Nathaniel's sermons. As their relationship deepened, Nathaniel's affection seemed to reignite something in Evelyn, a sense of importance and desire that she had never experienced before. She felt seen by him in ways her husband never had, and for a time, she truly believed Nathaniel was the answer to her problems. But what started as an emotional connection quickly turned into obsession. Evelyn's need for Nathaniel's affection overshadowed everything else. She wanted him, and she believed that he was the one who could give her the love and validation she desperately craved. But Nathaniel, ever the manipulator, had his own reasons for indulging in the affair. He recognized Evelyn's wealth and status as a way to further his own ambitions. As he distanced himself emotionally, he used her to advance his position within the church and society. What Evelyn didn't realize was that she was merely a pawn in Nathaniel's game, a game that she was losing control of. It was on March 5th, 2012, that everything came crashing down. That evening, Evelyn's emotional turmoil reached its peak. Nathaniel had told her once again that their affair had to end. She had grown desperate, unable to bear the thought of losing him. In a fit of rage and heartbreak, Evelyn snapped. What followed was a confrontation that escalated violently. Nathaniel's attempts to break free of her grip were met with brutal resistance. In a frenzied attack, Evelyn grabbed a knife from the kitchen, her emotions taking control. Each stab was a manifestation of her anguish, each blow a cry for attention, for love, for validation. When the police arrived, they found Nathaniel's body unrecognizable, a victim of over a dozen stabbings. In the aftermath of the murder, Evelyn tried to cover her tracks, but she left behind crucial evidence: a bloody scarf in her car, a high-heeled shoe at the crime scene, and lipstick marks on the wine glass. The authorities quickly pieced the puzzle together, and Evelyn's once glamorous life crumbled. The investigation revealed the extent of her obsession with Nathaniel, and the public soon learned of the dark, twisted side of the woman they once admired. As Evelyn was arrested and her trial unfolded, the world watched in disbelief, wondering how a woman so seemingly perfect could fall so far. Evelyn's trial in 2013 became a media spectacle as reporters and spectators packed the courtroom. The prosecution painted a portrait of a woman driven by jealousy and obsession, while the defense tried to argue that she was a victim, manipulated by Nathaniel and her own troubled marriage. In the end, the jury found Evelyn guilty of second-degree murder. The once prominent socialite was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison, her life forever altered by her inability to control her emotions. What had started as a search for love had ended in an irrevocable tragedy, a stark reminder of how unchecked desire and obsession can lead to the most devastating consequences. Evelyn Monroe's story is one of glamour, obsession, and murder, a chilling reminder of how the pursuit of love and validation can sometimes turn deadly. As she sits in prison, her life forever shaped by her crime, the city of New York moves on, but the story of Evelyn Monroe and Reverend Nathaniel Cross lingers, a haunting tale of passion gone awry. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out our other videos for more captivating stories. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.